So behind me right here, I got the Gen 6 Fuel EX and the Gen 5 Fuel EX. And people have been asking online, which one should I choose? There's some really good deals on the Gen 5, the older one, or the 2020 through 2022 Fuel EX. And there's a brand new 2023 Fuel EX. So let's go ahead, look at each one of these bikes, kind of break down the spec, the geometry, what I think sets them apart, and the two different type of riders I think these bikes are geared more towards, because only one of them might be the right bike for you. So Trek went away from the model years and now they're going with the generations. So we got the Generation 6 or the Gen 6 and the Gen 5 right here. Let's go ahead and start with the Generation or the Gen 5 Fuel EX right here, which is a bit lighter, definitely more nimble with that steeper head tube angle. And right now you can find these things on sale, like this one sitting right in front of me, for just over $2,500. You're gonna get really good value for the amount of money that you pay. Now the Gen 6 is definitely, I would say, more capable, more adjustable, beefier. You can just look at that frame and tell it's a much beefier build, with that suspension that comes on it, with that piggyback, beefier shock. The Fuel EX Gen 5 right here has 130 millimeters of rear travel, 140 millimeter fork on there. It comes with a Fox 34 fork, so a little bit smaller in diameter fork. And on the rear shock, you're not gonna see that big beefy piggyback I was talking about on the Gen 6. The Gen 6 has 140 mils of travel in the rear and a 150 fork. So definitely pushing more into that all mountain bike range. And it comes with a beefier Fox 36 or 36 millimeter diameter fork on the front of that thing right there. Now both of these frames right here have the active pivot braking suspension layout from Trek. So they got the linkage driven single pivot with the magnesium rocker link right here. On the newer Fuel EX, this rocker link is mounted just a little bit higher. It's supposed to give you a little bit better pedaling performance, but basic frame suspension design for both of these is about the same, but there's some definite differences in the designs on these frames, because the older Fuel EX only has this one Minolink flip chip in the rear right there that allows you to adjust the geometry by a half a degree. However, the new Fuel EX has so many different adjustments. It's got that same Minolink adjustment in the rear right there, so you can flip that around. It's got an adjustment on the shock right there for the progressivity of the shock, to where you see if you move that back, it would put that shock at a steeper angle, which makes this bike ready to set up for coil shocks. And you can also buy headset cups for this bike that allows you to adjust the head tube angle up to a degree either way. So 64.5 is what you're gonna have this bike come in at stock. You can go all the way out to 63.5 and all the way as steep as 65.5. On the frame design, on the older one, that head tube angle is set at a 66.5 degree head tube angle, and you can adjust that by a little bit slacker. If you put this in the low setting, it'll go down to 66 degrees, but in today's day and age, that's getting to be a little bit steep for a head tube angle on a trail bike. Other angles that are important to note on this is the seat tube angle. This older model right here has a 67.5 degree seat tube angle, and the newer model has a 77.5, so 10 degrees steeper on that seat tube angle, which is pretty significant when you're talking about the position that's gonna put you in when you're saddled on this bike pedaling it up the hill. So with that steeper seat tube angle and that rocker link being up just a little bit higher, this bike should not only have more travel in the rear, but it should also pedal a bit better on the way uphill. So why, if it has all those benefits of getting the new Gen 6, would people even be looking at the Gen 5? Well, that comes down to the price point. You can get these bikes, like I said, on sale right now. Super good bargain. You're gonna get a really good bang for your buck. And I think that kind of brings us into like who these bikes are right for, which bike you should choose based on your riding needs and maybe even your budget. So if you don't have, $3,000 or more to spend, then right away you can go ahead and get that Gen 5 for around $2,600 or less, because a lot of them are on sale right now, and get a completely capable trail bike. I mean, this is the same exact trail bike right here since 2020. So 2020, 2021, 22, everyone was riding this bike, no issues, no complaints. People were loving this for mobbing down just about any trail on the mountain. However, I would say if you can get a little bit more money to throw down on a bike, you can get the new Gen 6, which the base price for that is like $3,700 for the 7. And then when you move up to the 8 right there, you are moving up into the $4,000 range. But for that price, you're gonna get a bike that I feel is for a rider that's really trying to push their limits, that's really riding those more aggressive trails, seeking out those black diamond runs, maybe even wanting a trail bike that you can take to the bike park and still feel comfortable mobbing down those black diamond bike park trails. If that's you, if you're that type of rider, then I would say the Gen 6 is the right bike for you. Now, I have rode and owned both of these bikes. The Gen 6 is a bike that I just purchased. The Gen 5 was actually my first real mountain bike that I ever bought. And I can tell you from experience, there's some definite differences in the way I thought these bikes handled on the trail. The Fuel EX Gen 5 right here has that through shaft rear shock, and I really had to flip the climb switch a lot when I was climbing on this bike. It was a pretty active shock for me, and I felt that thing bobbing quite a bit when I pedaled. It also tended to blow through a lot of the travel when I was starting to ride more aggressive black diamond trails. That combined with the fact that it only has a Fox 34 up front, I found myself clapping the suspension and often feeling a little bit uncomfortable when I was really trying to push my limits on the trails. Now the new Gen 6, on the other hand, which is a newer bike to me, one I've just started to ride, is much more capable. I found this thing to feel about as capable as the Slash that I previously had and traded in to get this bike. Definitely pedals great on the way uphill. It's got that beefy 36 150 mil fork in the front, so it was handling everything that I could throw at it, and that's why I'm saying this bike is more for that type of rider that's really trying to push their limits and ride those more aggressive black diamond trails. And I will be taking this thing to the bike park in the future, so it'll be interesting to see how it handles that. So this is just a real quick video on the Gen 5 behind me versus that Gen 6 back there, but that's not it, because like I said, I just purchased the Gen 6. So go ahead and click on that next video right there and watch me build that bike up, because I got some awesome upgrades coming for the new Trek Fuel EX Gen 6 right here, which I think is the right bike for me. But leave a comment below if you think that the Gen 5 is the right bike for you. Interested to hear.